Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So the topic of today's video is how a consistent goal helps to create a consistent life. But before I get into the video, if you have not subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like this video at the end, give it a thumbs up. And also, if you are interested or if you are a fan of poetry, I actually had a subscriber who sent me some of her poems, and I read some of them and I actually thought they were really good. So if you like poetry, stay to the end of the video because I'm actually going to read a couple of the poems she shared with me. But for the main message of this video, I want to talk about goals because I think that goals are a crucial part of life because it gives us a structure by which we direct our lives. And today's message comes from a book called Meditations by the ancient philosopher and emperor Marcus Aurelius. So Marcus Aurelius is, I think, a pretty unique case in history because most philosophers are not emperors, and most emperors in history are not philosophers. So Marcus Aurelius is a really unique example of a man who spent his life pondering over the big questions of life, the big questions of human existence, and at the same time had an entire empire, specifically the most powerful empire of his time, to manage and to make important decisions for. One of the other ancient philosophers, Plato, he had this pretty flawed idea of the philosopher king. He believed that because philosophers were so wise and because they had so much insight that ultimately every society should be run by a philosopher king because the philosopher king is going to know what's best and he's going to make all the best kinds of decisions. And while that kind of idea or that viewpoint is obviously anti-democratic, anti-freedom, I guess, to some extent, Marcus Aurelius was the closest thing we ever got to a philosopher king. And he's personally my favorite Roman emperor in history. I think that it's great that he left this book of his reflections, which supposedly he never thought would be published. He never thought, hey, this is a book that I'm going to pass down to future generations so that they can understand my philosophy. It's simply just his thoughts that he wrote down. And even to this very day, various people from, philosophers and CEOs and, plenty of people, even in the modern day, draw a lot of wisdom just from this ancient book right here. And I was flipping through this. I read this book a long time ago, and I was flipping through some of it recently, just flipping through some of these passages, and I came across one that inspired me to make this video. So here he says, if you don't have a consistent goal in life, you can't live it in a consistent way. Unhelpful unless you specify a goal. So when I think about this idea of the consistent goal, it makes me think about being intentional in life. Living with intention simply means being deliberate in what we do and living with a specific purpose in mind. It may even be in the sense that there's a certain destination that we're trying to reach in some way, shape, or form. And I think that being intentional is so important because I often ponder over how fleeting time is and how little time there really is in life. Just a single day goes by so quickly that before you know it, you're living your life, you're accomplishing certain things, you're doing certain things in the world, and all of a sudden 10 years have gone by and you're like, wow, where did the time go? And from some of the older people I've talked to in my life, they say that as you get older, the time goes by faster. So I think, even when you're younger and you have all this time in front of you, being intentional is important because it allows you to say, okay, time is fleeting. Life goes by very quickly. How do I want to spend my limited amount of time? And the way that we spend that time is going to determine our life. It's going to determine who we become as a person. And that's what I think Marcus Aurelius, I think that's what he's talking about when he says, if you don't have a consistent goal in life, you can't live it in a consistent way. one day you might be over here doing this, the next day you might be over here doing this, and you might be going back and forth between various things trying to find some kind of purpose or cause that you're dedicating yourself to. And someone who does have that consistent goal will be engaging in the consistent behaviors day in, day out. But I also think that more important than a consistent goal is the consistent behaviors, the consistent habits. In his book, Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about the difference between a goal and a system. So a goal, as you are probably well aware of this, a goal is, for example, if a person, maybe a kid has a goal of learning how to play the piano. And that's something that they want to be able to do one day. They want to be able to sit down and they can just play the piano with all the skill that they have acquired. So that kid has that goal, but James Clear talks about that's a goal, but there's also a system. And a system is the continued, consistent behaviors that a person engages in to reach that goal, right? So the kid has the goal of learning how to play the piano. The system is the daily schedule that the kid has. So maybe the kid has the schedule of when I get home from school, every day at 4:30, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play the piano for an hour. Even when I don't want to play the piano for an hour, I'm still going to force myself to play the piano for an hour. And obviously, life may happen. The kid may end up needing to go somewhere else and you can't play piano this day. Something might get in the way and you can't play it the other day. But overall, the kid has this consistent behavior, this consistent habit that the kid forms. And ultimately, that kid is going to learn how to play the piano simply just from engaging in those behaviors. So it's not about, okay, I got to accomplish this goal necessarily. It's about I have to just make sure that I'm engaging in the daily systems that I put in place for myself. And then accomplishing a goal is something that just happens naturally from engaging in those daily habits and those daily behaviors, such as playing the piano and practicing. And once again, that's what I think he's talking about. When he says, if you don't have a consistent goal in life, you can't live it in a consistent way. When he says you can't live it in a consistent way, I think what he's saying is he's saying that you're not going to have the systems in place. You're not going to be that kid who's playing the piano every single day if that kid doesn't have the goal of, I want to learn to play the piano. If the kid doesn't have that goal and say, this is what I want to do, it's unlikely that they are going to actually create the systems or put those systems, right, those habits into place in the first place. If that kid doesn't have the goal of learning how to play the piano, right, if you don't have a consistent goal in life, then that kid is not going to put in place those systems. They're not going to put those systems in place to learn the piano, and hence they won't live it in a consistent way. They can't live their life in a consistent way, as Marcus Aurelius is saying here. So that's why I think here it's so important to have the goals, because the goal puts you into position to prioritize what kinds of systems, what kinds of behaviors and habits you are going to put in place to reach that goal. He also goes on to say, there is no common benchmark for all the things that people think are good, except for a few, the ones that affect us all. So the goal should be a common one, a civic one. If you direct all your energies toward that, your actions will be consistent, and so will you. So I think what Marcus Aurelius is saying there is he's saying, look, there's no common agreement. There is no absolute correct judgment about which kind of goal is the correct goal or which is a good goal. Everybody's going to have a different goal in life. It's not about this goal being the good one or being the better one. Everyone is going to have the right kinds of goals for themselves based on their preferences, their values, their beliefs, etc. So what Marcus Aurelius is saying here is we can't come to this judgment of these are the good goals and these are the less good goals, these are the bad goals, except in one regard. And the regard is what he talks about being a civic goal, right? And what he means by that, I believe, is the goal in terms of what is good for others, what is good for one's community. Obviously, I think most of us can agree that goals that have some kind of positive impact in the world, that benefit the lives of others in some way, shape, or form, are going to be better than goals, or at least more useful than goals that don't have any impact on anyone at all. So I think it's important to establish that it's not a matter of when a person creates a goal, they shouldn't necessarily say, okay, well, what does my culture and my society value as being a worthwhile goal? Ultimately, you need to take into consideration what may help someone, but at the same time, it's more about a personal conversation you have with yourself saying, is this goal the right goal for me? Does this suit my interests? Does this suit my talents? Does this suit what I'm good at? But what Marcus Aurelius is saying is that whenever we engage in some kind of goal, especially a goal that has more to do with things that people may like, the important question is, what kind of a civic or social impact does my goal have? Because as he says here, there is no common benchmark for all the things that people think are good except a few, the ones that affect us all. So the goal should be a common one, a civic one. Essentially, the goal should be something that helps or contributes to society, improves or benefits the lives of others in some way. Now, obviously, some goals are going to have more of an impact in culture and civilization and society than others are. So obviously everybody's going to have the things that they like to do, but when it comes to constructing a goal for your life, Marcus Aurelius here is saying that it is important to at least take into consideration the kind of civic or social impact that your goal has on the lives of others. Does your goal help people, or does it potentially hurt people? Does your goal have a neutral effect? Does it not help anyone, and does it not hurt anyone? And if so, how could you potentially rearrange that goal to make sure that someone does benefit from that goal? And I think that that's important because when we take a step back and we place our goal into a social, as Marcus Aurelius says, civic context, it helps us connect our goal to a larger purpose. It reminds us that every community consists of different people who have various goals. And all of those various goals in some way contribute to the overall flourishing of the community. So when we're thinking about our goals in life, being able to take a step back and think about how our goal plays a role in the benefit of community, the benefit of society, that I think is going to add an extra sense of purpose to our goal, which I think, once again, gets back to what Marcus Aurelius is saying here. The consistent goal helps you live the consistent life. And what's going to help you continuously engage in those systems, what's going to motivate you to engage in those systems, right, the daily behaviors and habits that lead to the fulfillment of the goal, is a sense of how it contributes to a bigger picture overall, how this contributes something to society or community. And so, for example, that kid who wants to learn how to play the piano, they can recognize, when I learn how to play this piano, I can play this music for my loved ones. I can play this for my family. I can play this for my friends. I can play this maybe even in a musical performance for people who love piano. And so that kid can take this goal of, I want to learn how to do this, and they have the consistent goal, which leads to the consistent life through systems and behaviors and habits. But they also have the realization that, hey, when I accomplish this goal of learning to play the piano, that equips me with something that I can then share with my community. I can then share with my loved ones. I can share with my family and my friends. And I can bring value to them in that regard. Anyway, that was something that I thought is interesting in what Marcus Aurelius is saying here. And that's why I think intentionality is so important in life. It helps us create effective systems for effective goals that can help us provide, in his words, a civic a civic, I guess you could say, function or a civic service that helps the people around us as a result. So if you have not read the work of Marcus Aurelius, I would highly recommend him. It's got lots of different bits of wisdom and what's called Stoic philosophy, all about how to look at the world, all about how to look at the universe, all about how to look at nature and think about your place in nature, which I think is what we kind of touched upon today, is finding your place and where you belong in your society, and what your goals allow you to contribute to your society. Maybe you don't read a lot of philosophy and you're looking for something to get you into philosophy, kind of as like a beginning book to get you into philosophy. This is not a bad start. I would recommend this work as at least one of the books you could begin on your philosophy journey if you're interested in getting into that. So thanks for tuning into that. And if you like poetry, I'm going to go ahead and share a couple of my subscribers' poems that they shared with me here. So as I mentioned before, I was chatting with one of my subscribers on Instagram, and they shared some poems with me, and I actually was reading through some of these and I liked them. I thought that they were good. And there were a couple that I'm going to share with you now that I thought were really interesting. So this poem is called Identity. And the poem goes like this. It says, "I'm seeking my identity. I aim to build myself externally. But how easy it would be to lose myself or destroy it, make it never happen. How foolish it would be to build an identity snatched away by others. This is a primitive identity chase mixed up with chaos." So throughout our lives, when we're building up an identity through various interactions with others and various interactions with different outlets and culture, it can be a kind of chaotic experience where we're trying to define who we are, what we believe, what we value. So I thought that was an interesting poem. The second poem I'm going to share is called Happy. She felt happy in a sad way, antisocial in a special way, smart in a stupid way, complicated in a clear way, enigma in a transparent way. She was full of contradictions. I don't have much more to say about that. I just thought that was a good one. This next poem is called Soon I'll Be Great. I'll brighten up the sky. I'll paint my room white. I'll get rid of my sadness. I'll get new delusions. It's been years of hoping because I have to get better. And that's an interesting poem, I think, for this video, because when I talk about goals and wanting to get better, there's a certain time where, or there's a certain point in which you have to be able to find that middle ground, to where on one extreme, you can realize areas of improvement and how you can maybe, upskill in some way, or, take on, a better perspective of some issue in life. But also at the same time, not getting to a point where you think that you'll never be good enough. And sometimes it's important to just be satisfied with who you are in the present moment and what you've been able to accomplish in the present moment without getting weighed down about, where you compare to other people. I think that self-acceptance in self-awareness is a good thing overall, for sure. But anyway, thanks to my subscriber who shared these poems with me. I enjoyed reading these, and I was happy to share them. I hope that my subscribers or my viewers or anyone who's just watching this video who likes poetry, I hope that resonated with you. So thanks again, subscriber, for sharing that with all of us. Anyway, so that's it for today's video. Once again, subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Share it with somebody who likes Marcus Aurelius or who is thinking about what their goals are in life. Maybe they'll find something useful out of it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.